on the practice of fellowship. And we want to do some practice of fellowship today. But before we start with that, I want to talk a little bit about this word fellowship. What's the word for fellowship in Swahili? Ushirika. Now I want you to think about those two words, fellowship in English and ushirika in Swahili. Now ask yourself, where do you use the word fellowship, the English word fellowship? Where do you use that word outside of church and religious activities? Outside of those activities, where do you use the word fellowship?
Academics.
In academics, yes. I received a fellowship as a graduate student, yes. It's a thing that you can receive, a position, a job you're given in the university. Yes. It's not a very common way of using, but it is definitely a correct way of using that.
You're my dad. What did you expect?
What? Yes. What do I expect you to have all the answers? Yes. Can you think of another way you use that word fellowship, the English word fellowship, outside of Christian church areas? It's hard, isn't it? Because that's kind of where we use it. Now, think of the Swahili word, ushirika. We use it in lots of places, don't we? How do we use the word ushirika? Besides, outside of Christian places, outside of Christian contexts. Yes, a cooperative society, yes. What else? Come on, I know we use this word a lot in Swahili.
Just a meeting of random people.
Yeah, just a meeting of people that are coming together for almost any kind of purpose. Yes. Chamas. Yes, yeah. Right. Those chuma chamas. Yes. Anything else? Well, we use that word in Swahili in a lot of ways. It's a very common word that you can hear it every day in Swahili. But the word fellowship somehow has gotten kind of compartmentalized into things that are related to church and church activities. I'm not sure why that is. The word that's used in the Bible, in the New Testament, for fellowship is what? Who knows the Greek word? Again, my family will know. They know everything. But who else? What's the word? The Greek word for fellowship? Koinonia. Yes, very good. And in the Greek, how is that word used? Anybody know? Besides in Christian religious context? How is it used? Now, this is a question that a lot of people struggle with. I had to go and look it up myself. I didn't know. Okay, it's used very broadly in the Greek language. It means any kind of group of people that get together for any kind of purpose. In fact, we had it today in our reading where the Greek word that was translated on the screen, I'm not sure which version we were using on the screen today, but the word that was translated partnership, and it's the same word, koinonia, partnership. Any kind of group, be it small or large, of people to come together for some purpose is, in Greek, koinonia, a partnership, an agreement, a chama, any kind of a group that comes together. But in Christian circles, we tend to think of it especially in English, the word fellowship, we think of it very much kind of locked into that context, that Christian context. And it's also very interesting that we also, as Christians, we talk about we have fellowship with each other, but who else do we have fellowship with as Christians? God, yes. And that is very interesting because it does not show up anywhere in the Old Testament, under the Old Covenant. That in the Old Covenant, the people of God's chosen people, God's special people that he had a special relationship with, they never thought or wrote about or talked about having fellowship with God. That is a new covenant, a New Testament kind of understanding. It's one of the major differences, maybe not the most important one, but one of the major differences between living under the Old Covenant and living under the New Covenant. Under the Old Covenant, you had a ruler, which we still do. Under the New, God's still our king and our ruler. But we didn't have fellowship with God under the Old Covenant. He was someone you obeyed, someone you followed. There were rules, there were things to do, there were ways to maintain relationship with God. But we didn't have that kind of fellowship the way we think of it in the New Testament. In fact, the concept of fellowship with God doesn't actually begin, even in the New Testament, until after Pentecost. When the New Testament believers were received and were filled with the Holy Spirit, that's when the idea that we began to talk about, and you don't even hear it in the New Testament. You don't hear it in Jesus' teachings, you don't hear it in the Gospels, but you start to hear it in the epistles, the letters of Paul and the others, where the Bible starts talking about being in fellowship with God. It's really kind of unique in Christianity. There are lots of religions in this world, and the major difference from a Christian perspective, the major difference between all the religions of the world and Christianity is that all the other religions of the world, they are this concept that there is a God in heaven, or maybe in some religion there are gods in heaven, but there is this great power outside of humanity that is the creator and the ruler of everything. And almost all religions have this kind of concept. And that we as humans, as his creation, we need to try to be in some kind of a relationship with him. Typically, it has to do with sin, and we realize that we've broken relationships with him. So most religions of the world, they have ways of how do we repair, how do we rebuild, how do we reach out to God to get back into relationship with God. Christianity is opposite of that. It's actually the opposite. It's God deciding how to get back into relationship with us. It's God who decided to set his Son as the sacrifice for us. It's God who became the mediator, the one who, the go-between between God the Father and all of mankind. It was God who reached out and made a way for us to come into fellowship with him. It's definitely a New Testament kind of thing that we talk about. When we are in relationship, and I think relationship may be the best way to understand the whole idea of fellowship, or is that there is something that binds us together, something that pulls us together. Now, we are all in relationships. I think it's very interesting in recent years, especially with social media, it's like, are you in a relationship? Oh, I'm in a relationship. I'm not in a relationship, or I'm single and ready to mingle. I'm looking for a relationship, type situation.
Single and satisfied.
Huh? Or single and satisfied. Yes, like, I'm great. Me, myself, and I don't need you. Yes, I'm all good all by myself. Yes, there's all those kinds of things. We use this word in very different ways. But today we want to talk about fellowship as a practice, as something we do, rather than just something that we are assigned to be in. Now, most of us, we got into these tunes. How did we get into them? Well, you could say it was by chance. We kind of numbered off and got into groups. If you're one of these people that believe in the absolute total sovereignty of God, you could say God ordained that I would be in this group and so forth, however. But most of us don't really think of ourselves as having chosen to be put into the group that we're in, that it kind of happened to us. But we don't want our groups just to be ending up that way. Now, can anybody think of a group that you are a part of, at least kind of technically you're a part of that group, but you don't really see yourself as being in relationship with those people? But you're one of them. Somehow you're a part of that group, but you don't really see yourself in relationship. Can you think of a group that you're a part of like that? I can think of many. I'm a member of the Automobile Association of Kenya. I don't really think of myself as in relationship with those people. I'm a member. I'm a member of that organization. What about the rest of you? Are you a part of a group where you don't really... Yeah, I'm a part of that group, but I'm not really in relationship there. There's lots of them. Come on. It's not nothing to be embarrassed about. We're all in those kind of groups.
I guess technically, I am part of a group of moms who are also businesswomen, but I've met, out of hundreds of the ladies in this group, I've met one or two.
Okay, but you're actually a member of the group.
I'm actually a member of the group.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. If you have a Facebook account, I doubt there's hardly anybody that's not in a group somewhere within Facebook. Yes. And you may not really feel you're in relationship with those, although you might be. You could be in relationship with those people. Anyone else? You're part of a group. You know you're in that group, but you don't really see yourself as in relationship with those people. You guys are too quiet today. You remember some years ago the government started this Nyumba Kumi. How many are in a Nyumba Kumi group? Or at least you were. The whole thing kind of died. But even when it started, did you really feel like, oh, now I'm in relationship with these people? No. We're all parts of those kinds of groups. We're parts of those groups where because when I got to university, I found out that I could actually do academics. I mean, before that, I thought academics were impossible for me. I don't even know why I decided to go to university, but I did. And I found out that I could actually do academic studies. I could be a good student. And so I've graduated from now 4 different colleges and universities. And so I am a member of an alumni group for 4 different schools. But by and large, I don't really feel like I'm a part of those. I mean, I'm a member, but I'm not really in deep relationship with those people. Now, we've started our Tunza groups. Most of us have met once or twice. And yet, how far have we gotten to becoming real fellowship? That is not something that will be imposed on you. That's not something that somebody will tell you. Start loving those people. You just get into relationship with them. It's a rule. You have to. Nobody's going to. Even if they said it, nobody can dictate. You can't actually cause that to happen. You have to bring it about in your own group. Something that you have to do. It can't be imposed on you. It can't be ordered on you. I think maybe that's why the Nyumba Kumi groups, things didn't really succeed too well. You were just told, you're in this group. Okay? Now here we're at LCC, and we're a small enough church that this shouldn't be a problem for us. We ought to be able to get in these groups and bond quickly and grow. But it's something that we have to choose to do rather than something that's done to us. Something where we have to get involved. if you can imagine, and I hope you can, a small group, a Tunza group, a Christian fellowship group that was exactly what it should be. It was the kind of group that it's just perfect. It's exactly the way it would be. What would be some of the characteristics of such a group? What would that group be like? That would be a great small fellowship group in a church. What would be some of the characteristics of such a group? We've actually talked about this before, but come on, what are some of those characteristics? Availability. Okay. Wow, that's actually foundational, isn't it? Yes, just being available for the group, or the group being available for you. Yes. Okay. What else? I hadn't thought of that. That's good.
Trust.
Trust, a place where there's a very high level or a deep level. I'm not sure which is the best way to think about it. Is trust something that's deep or something that's high? Maybe it's both, or maybe it's broad. I don't know. But there's trust in the group, where a place where you feel that people trust you and where you feel you can trust them. Okay? What else would be?
Commitment.
Commitment. Yes. A great Tunza group would be a group where people are committed to the group, not only committed to being in the group, but committed to whatever the group's getting ready to do. Or what is the group doing? Committed to action, to participation, to engagement. What else? What would be another characteristic? Come on.
Vulnerability.
Vulnerability. Yes, that openness, that ability to open yourself, to share. That kind of trust and vulnerability go together, don't they? I mean, you're not going to be open with people you can't trust. Like, yeah, let me tell you my deepest, darkest secrets, you know? You're not going to do that unless there's a high level of trust. Anything else?
Having something in common.
Okay.
So like, because it's a Tunza group at church, then we would have our faith in common, or
Mm-hmm.
the involvement we have at this church or in the community. But typically every group forms around a commonness that each member shares.
Okay. Great. This common values, concerns, an engagement around things that pull you together. That would be a great group. What other characteristics of great of a fellowship group that's really right on target?
Keeping each other comfortable.
Okay. Yeah, that's really important, isn't it? If you read all the material, and believe me, there's books and books and books and books written about how to have small groups in churches. And one of the things that makes small groups not to come together and get strong, one of the things that is a hindrance to groups really becoming tight, is when the people come together, but they don't feel this. They don't feel comfortable together. Now, I'm not necessarily thinking about physical comfort, but they don't feel comfortable with the people in the group. They feel like these people are so different from me that I don't even know how to relate to them. Okay, so that making people feel comfortable with each other. Anything else?
Communication.
Good?
Communication.
Yes, having great communication. Yes. Anything else?
Like leadership vision.
Okay.
Like, a group could come together for one purpose, but it needs that either formal or informal leadership to kind of evolve and grow as a group.
Okay.
So some of the best small groups I've been a part of had just these natural informal leaders. And they wouldn't necessarily say, I'm the leader, this is what we're doing. But there was that informal vision that kept the group growing and moving.
A couple of the others I thought was about a sense of deep caring between members of the group, that people care about each other, that people, when someone, for whatever reason, misses a meeting or misses an engagement of some kind, that people in the group automatically say, what's happening to so-and-so? Phones start ringing, people start going to the house, hey, we've missed you, what's going on? You okay? Anything we can do to help? There's deep caring. I think the other thing I had written down was that people engage together in activities. They do something together. Rather than rather than just social engagement, but there's engagement outside the group itself. There's engagement in something. Especially in a community church like ours, we want that to be a central focus of who we are as a church, that we are engaging with our community. So when our Tunza group is engaging with the outside community. When Sherry and I lived in Nairobi, for quite a few years we were members of Nairobi Chapel. And they started these small groups. They called them ecclesia groups. And we started going to them, and then the church set up kind of a way, because it was a very, very, very large church, there was kind of a way of kind of keeping track of all the different groups. So they actually made groups of these ecclesia groups. And I was asked to work with one group of these groups, of these ecclesia groups, and kind of visit them and, provide some kind of encouragement and help them to do what they wanted to do and so forth. One of the things I found is that in some groups, the groups there were put together by geography. So people that lived close to each other tended to be in a group. So in a very large church, and I'm sure it can happen here, but in large churches it's more likely to happen, you had groups where a lot of the people in the group were not Christians. They didn't know Jesus. But they come to church, they joined a small group. In fact, I had one group where only the leader was a Christian. Nobody else in the group was a Christian. And that group really struggled. That group really, really struggled. So there's something about pulling ourselves together as believers as well, not just engagement in other things we're going to do. So if we want our groups to be all these things we've talked about, all this rich, deep, caring, engaging, being available, having trust, all these things, all the things we've just talked about, how are we going to make that? How are we going to practice that fellowship? How are we going to make that practical? How are we going to make it happen? People say you can choose your friends, you can't choose your family. And but somehow, in many ways, we're closer to our family sometimes than we are to our friends, even though we didn't choose them. But we get in those relationships with them, and we're there, and we care, and it's important to us. So how can we make our fellowships a place of joy, a place of belonging, a place of deep caring, a place of engagement? So, I think the answer to that is inside of you guys. I'm not here to tell you what those things are. In fact, what I'm going to ask you now is to preach the rest of the sermon. We're going to put up a couple questions on the screen. I'm going to start with one in just a minute. But I'm going to ask you to look at the question. There's going to be a stem of a statement that says, I feel this way, or this happens to me. Somebody's phone is ringing. I just reached in my pocket. It's not mine. Anyway, there's a stem, and then I want you to finish that stem with some phrases. So the stem might say something like, I feel engaged with my family when whatever happens. And then you have to fill in those things. So first of all, what I want you to do is I want you to take about 3 to 5 minutes, not long, as individuals, and try to come up with 3 to 5 answers or endings to that stem. Okay? And then I want you to talk about them in your group. And I want you in your group to get somebody to write them down. Because these are the things that you can build into your groups that'll make this happen. So let's put up the first one. First one says, I feel that I'm being treated as an adult when. What are the things that makes you feel that you're being treated like an adult? Now we do have children in our Tunza groups, but basically, as we're talking about the adults here, the things that make me feel like I'm being treated like an adult. And I want you to take a moment. You can write them down. I even brought some pens just because I thought people won't have them. I did not bring paper, so if somebody needs a pen, there's some there. But write 3 to 5 phrases that complete that stem. Just take a few minutes, do that, and then take some time and share them in your group. And we're going to come back and we're going to do this with a couple other items. So I'm going to give you about 12 minutes to do this. So you have to move quickly, okay? So go. Write, think, write. No, write, think, and then write. Not write and then think. Yes. Think first. Everybody think of some individually, and then share them with each other. There'll probably be a lot of overlap. Okay, I'm going to ask you to kind of make a note of, if you have someone writing down, make a note of where you reached in this, because I'm sure you haven't finished. But I want to look at some other topics, and we'll start on those. But before we go to the next one, what are like 1 or 2 key things that came out of your group that made people feel like they were being treated like an adult? What was maybe one or two things from each group, real quick.
When our ideas, opinions, and decisions are listened to and respected.
When your ideas, opinions, people listen and they show respect for those ideas. Okay? Did you have another one?
Yeah, when we're spoken to respectfully, and we're given responsibilities, especially within our skill set.
Okay, so respect shows up twice in those 3 items. Okay. What about this group? Let's have this group. What 1 or 2 things from your group?
When one is consulted during decision making.
One's consulted, so like your ideas and your opinions are actually sought. Someone comes and says, what do you think about this? And we want your input. So when someone comes and asks you for your input, rather than just saying, okay, does anybody want to say anything? But somebody actually asks you for your ideas, you really feel like you're being treated like an adult. Was there another one?
Yeah, when one is asked to teach or guide maybe older people or just elderly people.
When you're asked to
Guide.
Teach. Okay, some kind of a leadership role. Okay, a guiding role, great. Those are things that, yes, definitely make you feel that way. Something else in this group?
A major one for this group was financial things. I feel like I'm being treated as an adult, or like I am an adult when I'm able to. I have those who depend on me, and I can meet those needs when I meet my own financial needs. So a lot of walking into a bank and knowing that there's a reason why I'm there. Just a lot.
Other than to rob them. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
But basically being able to meet financial expectations and needs.
Okay. So even in a group.
Yeah.
When the group decides we're all going to participate in this thing financially, and you're expected to do it, and you do it, you feel like, yes, I'm an adult.
I'm a
Yes.
contributing adult. Yes.
Good, very good. So, I want you to think more about those, maybe next time your group meets, and the next 1 or 2, and the next couple that we're going to go through. So we're going to start on each of these, but you're going to finish them up in your groups. So let's have the next one. It says, I feel that I belong in a group when. Now, these may overlap with the first group, the first set, but think specifically about what makes you feel like you belong. What makes you feel like you really belong in that group? So take a couple minutes, think about it, and then share with your group. Okay, can we? I can hear some good discussion going on. That's great. That's what these groups are for. And I want you to continue them in your group when you meet next. But can we get one or two items from each group, that things that make people feel, or that you mentioned in your group that make you feel, or somebody in your group feel like they actually belong in this group? So let's start with this one this time.
When age isn't a factor.
Oh, okay.
Which is, I thought was a really good point. You know, you have groups with mixed, you know, some people are older and younger, but everyone gets to contribute equally, and their opinions and their voices are heard.
Good. Excellent. My young daughter. Yes. Yes. This group? Something that makes you feel like you belong?
Yeah, when the group has trust and confidentiality in matters discussed.
Wow. I've got my hearing aids turned up really high and I'm still not hearing you.
When there's trust and confidentiality in matters discussed, it's so personal as well.
Yes, trust and confidentiality. You'll never get trust until there's confidentiality. You know, they say that, you know, people in the world spread rumors. Christians have prayer requests. Oh, please pray for so-and-so in their marriage. They're really struggling. You know, there's something's going on in that home. You really need to pray for them. Yeah. Okay. Gotta be Christians call it prayer request. Yes. Yeah. So, yes, trust, confidentiality. When I'm in that group, I belong when I know I can talk about things and I don't hear it from my neighbor later on, you know. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Something from this group?
When the members remember my name.
Yes. That gets harder the older you get, but
We have several in this group that say, uh-oh.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great one. People greet you by name instead of just, Rafiki yangu. Rafiki yangu's nice, but that can also be an excuse, like, what? This Rafiki's name? Yes. I had written down, when people smile when they see me, I come in, their smiles like they're happy to see me. I feel like I belong there. When someone comes in and they're like, who are you? What are you doing here? I don't feel like I belong. Okay, we're moving quickly to the next one. The next slide is, I feel free to share my emotions. When do you feel free to tell people you're sad, you're happy, you're angry, you're jealous, you're afraid? What makes you feel free to share those things in a group? Those emotions that we're having. This is a tough one because even in our culture here, this is not something that's easily done in our cultures. You know, it's like, especially for men. I don't know what it is about men. The only emotion men are supposed to show is anger. They can show anger. That's okay to be a man and get really angry. You can go to a football game and you can stand and scream and shout and cheer on you, but you can't do that at church or your home, or you can't do that any other activity. I don't know what it is, but men are only allowed to show their emotions when they're angry or when they're at a sporting event. I don't know what the rest is, but okay. So that's to work on. Take a few minutes, work on it. Go quickly. You'll finish it up later in your group. Okay, let's get a couple ideas from each group. We haven't started with this middle group. Let's start with them. Can we get one from this group? That things that make you feel like you're able to share your emotions.
Situations like being happy, so we just feel dilated. Just keep talking and talking. So you're able to express yourself better and yeah.
Okay, you're going to have to help me on this. It's not that I'm not hearing you, but I'm not understanding. How does that make you feel? How does that make you feel free to share the emotions?
When you're happy, you tend to feel free with other people. You tend to want to share the happiness with someone else. So you're bound to talk to them more and maybe.
Okay, so it might depend on the emotion itself.
Yeah.
Some emotions are easier to share than others. So like if you're happy, it's easy to share it. If you're sad or angry, it may be harder. So maybe negative emotions or what are considered negative emotions might be harder to share.
Yes.
Okay. Let's try over here. You have one you want to share. What makes it easy to share your emotions?
When we're not laughed at or judged.
Laughed at or judged. Those are very good ideas. I had written down something similar. Yeah, but the idea that your emotions are accepted.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay that you're really sad about what's going on. Have you ever told had anyone ever tell you, oh, don't feel that way. You shouldn't feel that way. Like you're feeling angry and says, don't feel angry. And you're like, wait a minute, my anger is not like on a light switch. I can't just turn it off and suddenly I'm, oh, no, I'm not angry. It doesn't work that way. Emotions don't work that way. You can't just switch them on and off. You can hide them, which is maybe what they meant. But you can't just, someone accepts your emotions and you're not made, they don't laugh at you about them, they just welcome those. Okay, great. Over here. Do we have one?
Yeah.
It's okay, we won't laugh at you.
Alright, so I think when you first of course you have to trust each other to be able to create that environment for people to share. And also when you've experienced the same challenges, same ordeals or experiences.
As each other. Yes. Yeah, one of the things I put down was when I'm not the only one sharing my emotions. And I'm the only one that's sharing my emotions and everyone else is just like taking notes, or something. Then I'm thinking like, well, that's the last time I'll open up. I'm not going to share again. But when other people share, it makes you feel better. Okay, last one. We're going to the last one. But I don't want this to be the end of this activity. I'm hoping you'll pick this up and walk with it further. Okay, last one. I can commit to the activities and the work of a group when what makes you feel like, okay, it's not just coffee and tea and mandazis. There's some work to do. We're going to engage in this project. We're going to pull our resources and we're going to do something as a group. And it's going to take time and energy and commitment on you. What makes you feel that you can commit to those activities in the group? What are the characteristics of the group that help you commit to getting engaged? Okay, let's share a couple ideas, one or two ideas from each group. Can we start with this one?
Yeah, when the goals or the activities or the vision of the group is clear, people can understand.
Okay. I can commit to it when I really know what it's all about,
Right.
where we're going, what we're doing, and how we're going to do it. Yes, when it's clear. Oh, that's a
So
great one.
along with that was when your part in that goal or activity or whatever it is within your ability, your strengths, etc. People have taken time to find out what you can do and can't do.
Yeah, I had written down skill set match.
Yeah.
When someone asked me to, I don't have many skills, but ask me to tell stories. Boy, I can tell stories. Yes. Don't ask me to keep the books. Okay.
Treasure.
Skill set match. Very good. This group?
When there's equal delegation of tasks and input given to the group, so each member contributes something.
Okay. So feel like, hey, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
It's all for one and one for all, not every person for themselves. Yeah, right, okay. Very good. So that there's equal participation, equal activity. You're not the only one that's committed to the activities. Everybody's there, and it makes it easy to commit. Okay. Good. This group?
We have said that everyone is willing to commit, but I think we've just voiced that. Limitations are respected. I think also one consensus we had is where there is food.
That motivation.
When I was doing my PhD studies, I took a whole course on motivation. How do you motivate learners? And in all the research, food is always almost a number one. You want to motivate learners? Have snacks in class. I mean, you want to it's a great motive. Food's a great one. I had also written down choice. That when there's activities, but somehow I have an opportunity to choose. Oh, I can do this or I can do that. There's a team that's doing this big project, but I can choose where I want to fit into that, and I feel like I have some choice, I wrote down. And that I'm involved in the decision making about these activities. That it's not just someone comes and the memo begins with, it has been decided that, those kinds of, it has been decided that your group is going to be X, your group is going to do Y, you're going to be involved in this, but you feel like you're involved in the decision-making activities concerning these work or these activities that the group's going to do. You were involved in it, even if my idea wasn't the one that was taken. Even if I shared and the group decided to do something else, the fact that I was involved in that decision-making process, it makes it much easier for me to commit. Now, what I really would like you to do, and is I would hope that the next time your group gets together as your Tunza group, you can kind of finish this up, kind of write these out, and then ask yourself, how can we make sure that our group fits all these things? That we make sure people are feeling like they're being treated like adults. We make sure that people are feeling that they belong in this group. That we make sure that our group is such a place where people can share and open up and share the deep things that are happening inside of them. And that when the group decides to do something, people will feel a sense of commitment to that group, to our group. And ask yourself, how can we incorporate this? Now, I'm not really talking about making a list of rules, although that might be something you might want to do. But beyond that it's about strategies. How do you strategize your group to become the kind of group that we said we want them to be? We want them to be deep, caring, engaged groups where there's that real koinonia, that real fellowship taking place. So I'd encourage you in your groups, when you meet, to ask yourselves, how can we strategize over these 4 issues? And you may come up with other ones. These are the 4 I came up with about treating people like adults, belonging, emotions, and engagement in activities. But there may be other things you think like we need to incorporate as well. Those are the ones I came up with. But how do we strategize? Not just, it's one thing to put a list of rules on a flip chart somewhere, but it's another thing. So what do we do as our group? What are the strategies to make sure this happens? Just how do we learn each other's names? Make sure that we use them in such a way. When I do a workshop at Daystar or any university, we always make name tags for people, but I always ask them, what do you want to be called in this workshop? Of course, you've got their registration slip, and mine might say my name is Charles Edward Kingsbury, which is my full name, but nobody in the world calls me Charles. And so I don't want to be called Charles. So the fact that someone asks me, what do I want to be called? I always put Chip. I like it. I really, because that's what I like to be called. That's what everybody calls me. And so, not only just knowing what's on their Kitambulisho, but what they actually like to be called. That's really important. If it's, you like to be called Baba Amanda, then call the person by that way. That's what they like. Use those terms. Okay, I know this is kind of it's an odd sermon. You guys wrote it, most of it, but that's what it means to be a member of Living Church. We want you to work on this. It may take more than even one session in your Tunza group, but work on them. Design how we're going to strategize to be the kind of group we want to be. So let's pray. Lord, we are so thankful that you call us into relationship with you and with each other. That's the great thing. The great thing of being a Christian, Lord, is that we get to be in relationship with you. Lord, we ask that we would be able to build relationships in our Tunza groups in ways that would make us strong, committed groups that can actually take care of each other, but also take care of the ministry, the work that you've called us to in our community. I ask you to help us to build this kind of relationships in our groups and in our church as a whole. Thank you for the time we've had and the sharing we've had. Help us to hear each other into voice. And we pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen.